first pick here for Cleared. It's been one of these junglers that really just exceptionally strong, right? Good at ganking, good at farming, good in the late game. Like, you have a role at every part of the game, and feels very comfortable. So FPX going to lock that one in without giving too much away about their strategy. Whereas TT look towards the bottom lane by the looks of things with these hovers. The Jinx, the Aphelios, both available here. Tahm Kench being hovered.
And with Thresh off the board, Tahm Kench becomes the other kind of engaged style support that provides a lot of feel and repositioning tools for the AD carry in terms of that matchup. So not too surprising to see the Tahm Kench prioritized. We saw TT versus LGD. That became the first pick by the end of that series because it was very crucial in the battle between the last place teams. So still maintaining the Tahm Kench priority going into today.
It's locked on in here, but with Thresh gone and Tahm Kench already taken, I am curious on the support that we get. We have seen still just like Nautiluses and Leonas and things, but that's what I was going to say. Hung has been playing the Lulu, has been bringing these enchanters out, and it works with the Hecarim too.
Yeah, I think Lulu is one of those things that will do decently well against Tahm Kench in the laning phase. I'm not the biggest fan of the Blind Graves pick here, but I know that it is a champion that a lot of top laners like to pick that just gets easy push in the lane, and then they play it non-interactive style if they want to focus more on the bottom lane. So that's kind of my expectation as to why he picked it, but it is vulnerable to a lot of picks. Renekton, not necessarily one of them, but if you get the slice and dice on top of him, his dash isn't that long range, and you can do a fair amount of damage in a short trade.
And over towards the ban phase, though, as we have relative scaling on both bottom sides of the map, and top lane is now locked in, but no jungler here for the side of TT just yet. So FPX could start banning those out, but actually going to focus on Ucal instead, taking away that Akali that we saw recently.
We talked about the Lulu, but also the Rakan is very commonly picked into the Tahm Kench. We see that quite a bit. I would say it doesn't provide as much appeal for the Aphelios. I don't know if I necessarily would want to play Renekton into Graves Aphelios. It doesn't sound super comfortable, so I don't know if they have to worry too much about that. The UV ban, very interesting and surprising, but I guess we'll see exactly what they're looking for here. I feel like a lot of LPL teams don't necessarily respect the Yumi that much. She is very diveable. Also tends to lose to a lot of shred and long range, which they do have Jinx available there. But as we look at the compositions, I kind of want to move away a bit from the individual picks and just talk about the fact that both teams so far want to do very similar things, right? They have a bot side focus, they have more of a handshake matchup in top lane that gets easy prio, and they're going to look for front line to play front to back with their AD carries.
Yeah, I mean, that is bread and butter for AD carries, realistically. There's not many picks that don't just want to front to back when it comes to AD carries, but Jinx and Aphelios definitely up there in that sort of style. But with a Diana locked in, that sort of changes things up, right? That's a lot of dive for Chieftain in the jungle.
And I think that when you see a Hecarim picked, right, normally I would think, okay, with Renekton versus Graves, right, you're not going to dive on the first three waves. Graves is going to get prio, so you're not going to look for something like the Nidalee, but you can make that Renekton Diana all-in-one combo work after you do a couple of clears and you have the level 6 marks available. And because they picked the Hecarim doesn't typically exert a lot of early lane pressure, so Diana can still have a comfortable lane phase. So from that perspective, don't mind the Diana pick at all. I also think that it's like some magic damage. Aphelios typically has relatively low MR. So having multiple sources of the magic damage available is not bad. I'm actually kind of wondering, because TT in the past have played the Renekton mid. Now, they don't have Quilla on the lineup anymore, but I'm wondering if Ucal is bringing it to the table, saying, you know, anything you can do, I can do better. To his
we'll
benefit.
See. Yeah, we'll see if Ucal is going to be bringing that one. But actually, Sylas locked in here.
Sylas?
Not something I was expected to see today, but up against this Vex, you know, there's a Hecarim ulti to steal. Nautilus ulti's not too bad either. I feel like there are some good options for Sylas.
Yeah, and I would say that there is like a lot of dive, so the Vex actually works pretty well. You can build the crown, right, the Zonias, and then plus you also have the shield coming out of Vex and the passive that makes her naturally very strong. versus dive compositions. So it's really strong here. The Sylas is an interesting choice into the Vex. I don't necessarily think it should do too well. It's the laning phase. But TT trying to put together this scrappy style. And we talked about the creativity of some of their old drafts, and that was the TT that I always was excited to watch, right? It wasn't necessarily always winning every game, but they were willing to play in your face and take those fights. So that's what I'm kind of looking for from them in this iteration against FPX here.
And so much focus on the top side from TT, right? Where you've got Jinx and Tahm Kench. Realistically, you expect them to play it pretty safe in the bottom lane. Whereas this Sylas, Diana, Renekton, that's a lot of power in the top 3 lanes. Or the top 2 lanes in a jungle. So lots of potential to try and make things happen up there. FPX will have to try and find an answer, but they do have Gori on this Vex. He's only played it once so far in this split, but they did manage to get that win, and that was against top esports. So perhaps a glimmer of hope there for FPX in that regard, but we'll have to see as we head towards the Rift here. And I'm curious what kind of version of TT we're going to see today, because FPX have been a team that, yes, they are on a loss streak, but they have a lot of potential within this roster. It feels like they've been slowly but surely iterating between picking these junglers, between different styles of gameplay. And now against TT, this should be a showcase for them. This should be an opportunity to give everyone some confidence in the roster as both teams start off with a level 1 stack in their own jungles.
Yeah, I think that in general you've got a little bit of concern for level 1. Neither of these jungle traps want to be invaded. They want to sort of protect or defend against the invade, but the bot lanes, Tahm, Kench, Nautilus, do pack a fair amount of level 1 power, so just protecting against those opportunities, I think, works out. If a team did invade, it would probably be the FPX team. They have way more level 1 power with the Graves versus the Renekton and the Vex compared to the Sylas. Speaking of the Vex compared to the Sylas, since this was our highlight Telecom War matchup, I'm a little bit concerned about the pairing of Diana with Sylas. We have seen some Dianas look for level 3 ganks, but if Sylas doesn't fight with jungle against these ranged champs, generally speaking, he has a hard time. So kind of wondering if we'll see that come through here.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eyes on that mid lane matchup, as you say, the budget telecom war going on there between the trainees on both KT and T1 over the years, but we'll see how that one pans out. But xiaolaohu already off to a swimming start in that top lane. This Graves, so oppressive in so many matchups. But I do want to talk a little bit about the FPX composition here, because we talked about how TT, you know, at level 6, they have the potential to try and make some dives happen, etc., etc. As New is in a lot of trouble here. xiaolaohu is just bodying him.
So, I would say that, like, TT's composition, as exciting as it is, I think FPX's composition does really well into it overall. You have the Vex to counter the dive and all in with the dashes that we talked about already, but Graves and Aphelios really want you to run at them and dive. Their kits are relatively short range, but doing a lot of bursts there. And as I talked about, if you're not fighting in this lane, you're just gonna slowly lose it. Waiting for Ucal to grab that level 3 and start looking for some all-ins on the bounce back, but having gotten pretty low and having to pop all of his pops already.
Yeah, this is the solo laners from TT. So far, really not having a fun game. As both junglers will start to finish their first clear. And as you mentioned before, both junglers with a very fast clear as well. So you expect both the Diana and the Hecarim just to be looking to clear those camps, get a reset off, and then perhaps look to get out onto the map a little bit later on. Double knock-up from SouthWind in the bottom side. Forces a flash out from Lwx, who calibrums off of the side of the map. Lwx with a bit of a weird misclick there, but it happens. Great engage from SouthWind, though.
Yeah, SouthWind and Puff, I think not necessarily known for their laning prowess, whereas you'd much more associate that with Hung and Lwx. Getting some moments here, and it looks like Chieftain is going to make something happen bot, based on the fact that these HP bars are a bit low and we don't have the blue gun from Aphelios yet.
We're going for the dive. Exhaust come out on both sides of the board. SouthWind tanking the tower, but here comes Clid to save the day. The literal cavalry has arrived, and it's going to be all FPX here as SouthWind come down. No, flashes away at the last possible second, but Hung, he'll have his dredge line available. Flashes forward for the passive. There's the slow. Can they finish the kill, though? Doesn't look like it.
And by the way, these lanes are too easy to dive either from FPX, which we had started to say a bit about the top lane. Same is true, for sure, for bot lane. It's just that TT getting a little hyphy, seeing the low HP bars, as you often do in solo queue games. But also in solo queue games, you sometimes forget how long it takes a jungle to do a full clear before recalling, which, in this case, about 4 minutes. It just typically you can expect, he started bottom, he pathed up, he's gonna be here. So that's exactly what happened here. They dropped a lot of vision, but got a little too excited. Didn't quite realize that, especially the Hecarim with the move speed available, can be bought pretty fast after the reset, and really nice counter gank and read from Clid.
Yeah, really great stuff. As xiaolaohu is not having as fun of a time. He's going to go down. So FPX winning the bottom side, but TT, hey, at least finding a good answer on the top half of the map. We did talk about their top lane strength, this Renekton and Diana combo. Looking out so far, at least.
And right, typically when you have the Renekton, you're looking for a dive around like 2:30 to 3 minutes when you get the first cannon wave crashing in. So you're going to have the Nidalee looking for that situation. But because Graves gets proud, you're going to look for more plays on the bounce back of the wave, which Chieftain, aware, capitalizes on that, and we see the xiaolaohu go down. So both kind of side lanes making small mistakes in just understanding jungle timing or reading the situation in I guess what I would consider like relatively kind of expected gate setups. But on the flip side, great capitalization from the junglers in taking advantage of those situations.
Yeah, really good stuff from the junglers early on here. 500 gold is the lead in favor of FPX. So a strong start for them against this potential dive. And I'm just looking across the lane matchup so far, and it's looking pretty positive for FPX, right? Bit of a CS lead in that bottom side. More than a 10 CS lead for Gori in the mid lane as well. Does feel like TT need to start to get proactive. Chieftain still level 5, but just hit 6. Leeching some of the XP from the bottom lane. Perhaps an opportunity as Lwx gets a ward down. They don't know that Chieftain is here, but I think they're suspicious of something. Chieftain gonna go for a recall. I'm not sure if he's on the vision of those minions or not, but he's sticking around. SouthWind goes for the engage. Lwx in trouble. Clid is here once again, though, as he charges on a minion. In the meantime, TT are winning the fight. Clid completely whiffed everything. He had his ult as well.
So that a particular counter gank angle not working out quite as well in this situation. I think in general when we're talking about like, Thunder Talk with the Tahm Kench and able to make space, if you're not able to get on top of the Jinx, Jinx should win those trades, and Ucal...
Gori's in trouble here. That's a shadow search from Ucal. He just goes for a dive. The solo kill. The telecom war is off to a flying start.
And of course, KT, always known for their early aggression relative to T1 historically. So making that happen, Ucal needs to find a fight angle, and here it is. So in this situation, we already talked about FPX, Clid in position looking for more aggression. Doesn't necessarily land any of his damage, however, and when you can't, aiming for Puff and not able to make it happen. Of course, Ucal, standard, if you land the E in a lot of the Sylas lane matchups, you can typically find, especially with level 6, a good all-in using and out-damage your opponent laner. Mostly, it's about using range to space the Sylas and then avoiding the E lockdown.
Yeah, exactly. And when you can steal the Shadow Search as well, it makes that follow-up so much more potent from Ucal. And against Gori, a player that struggled in the laning phase, now potentially a Herald fight. Bring it on up as Ucal just going to clear this mid-wave. Clid trying to get on the Herald, but it does reset in the end, and Chieftain is here. That Moonfall available on the Diana. It's a huge spike, but with Ucal's ult on cooldown, TT perhaps deciding this is not worth contesting.
And also appropriately, we've seen this really commonly, just globally in general. with the kind of AD carry meta that exists right now, if you leave a Jinx or an Aphelios alone in a lane, you can equalize a lot of the gold difference that you get by handing over the Rift-Tailed. Puff, looking a bit indecisive here, but could have probably picked up two plates, which, depending on the state of the lanes, will make up for the gold that you're getting off of the Rift-Tailed drop. So, because there's a lot of wave clear both top and bot with the Renekton combo and Jinx, you're probably not going to do a lot of damage with your Rift-Tailed more than grabbing a couple plates. So, always worth for Jinx to get this like single solo gold from these plates bottom here.
And it was a huge amount of gold as well, despite being a kill down, still going to be up in gold in that bottom lane. Gori's in trouble. Oh, the rocket barely goes wide. That is hard. Some of the hitboxes I've seen on that rocket, I can't believe that one doesn't hit, honestly. But they are going to survive. Charging the top lane. Actually, FPX are going to be the ones to get the first tower. I'm kind of surprised, honestly, with how much time Puff's had.
Yeah, it looks like New just kind of seeded that top lane turret. Basically knew that TT were going to invest a lot of resources into the bot lane. Sylas going deep to try to get that kill on Gori. So they just kind of gave them the turret. So we're going to have a little bit of a sad crocodile coming into this mid-game relative to the Graves. Should allow FPX to at least get some angles where they have priority, especially when Graves picks up the classic hole breaker to set up these individual objectives. And, of course, TT and Ucal finding that dive, very simple combo with their ultimates, and setting it up, knocking him down.
Yeah, Gori is not having a very fun time in this game. No. Ucal definitely winning out the matchup, especially when you've got Chieftain to slide in underneath the enemy tower. It's definitely going to help you out in the 1v1. And that CS lead that we talked about for Gori earlier on, it is a long-distant memory at this point, whereas Ucal has a huge advantage, almost 1,000 gold up individually. And when you look at the gold overall, it's 2,000 in favor of TT so far. TT fans everywhere rejoicing at how this early game is going.
And this is the TT that I've been missing, Munchables. We'll play a ton of melee champions, we'll just run at you and try to fight all the time. And I think this is an exciting development from Ucal, because I wasn't really sold on his core key, despite how many games that he was logging on it. And I really like the Akali and the Sylas comparatively, right? Constantly looking for these skirmishes, taking advantage of the fact that Gori hasn't had the greatest of laning fundamentals of all the mid laners we have here in LPL, and making a lot of these things happen. It reminds me of 2021 Better Talk. I feel like I'm home once again.
It's like walking in to that nice warm fireplace and seeing your family all around you. Oh, it's so beautiful to see TT looking good in the early game once more here. Big old gold lead for them. First Drake of the game as well. The next one coming up in 2 minutes time. And it doesn't feel like this composition is going to necessarily fall off a cliff or anything like that either. You've still got a Jinx for the late game. Sylas as well, a champion that scales exceptionally well, to be quite honest. And Diana doesn't really stop one-shotting people. So definitely feels like TT are actually in a really good position. And I feel like the question to me is not how good is TT looking, it's more like how does FPX get themselves back into this one?
And I think they're not completely out of it, right? We have a relatively strong break with that whole breaker, as I said.
That's a jungler versus a mid laner, but it doesn't look like the mid lane can win. Chieftain pushed away by Clid, but he's got SouthWind next to him, and Clid has to back away. And that's going to be the stopwatch used, but it doesn't matter. It's another kill. Gori not having a fun time this game. 0-3-0.
Yeah, and basically we're seeing New actually be able to get on top of this Graves and do a fair amount of damage. He still has the Dominus available as well, I believe. So I have a full name covering over my screen, unfortunately. But I believe he does have the Dominus available, which means that in this particular situation, we're going to be able to see him, if he can get on top of the Graves, still be able to win out, despite the fact that the Graves does have the Hull Breaker Rush. You usually see the Hull Breaker versus some AP champions, so if he were matching Ucal, which I don't know if anyone wants to do right now with his Mythic completed, maybe he would have a little bit of a better shot.
Perhaps he would, but FPX finally going to get some town plates going. Obviously, they got that Herald up on the top side. But Nu's here to stop too much going down. He's completely alone on the bottom side of the map, but I don't think he minds too much. He's able to just clear that minion wave away. And I just want to revisit the scoreboard quickly before this next Drake comes up, because it's in 20 seconds time. And right now, TT, massive item advantages here. 3 mythics finished at this point. Nu pushing out that bottom side as well, so he can move into this river with a TP from Ucal. Looks like TT should get this Drake uncontested.
And this is what FPX struggled with a little bit in the Rare Adam series, which is responding to strong sideliners. And TT, using the fact that they got that wave in top lane and TPing in to zone Lwx off of hitting the mid wave, really like more sophisticated dragon setup that I'm used to seeing from ThunderTalk, and they're gonna see that. I think if you look at across the board right now, Renekton has the board drinker available. You have Sylas having had a very explosive laning phase, and Jinx into the Aphelios. You're going to actually get prio in multiple lanes at this point of the game, which means that you should have pretty straightforward neutral setups. Plus you have the Tahm Kench, has like the little short Abyssal Voyage hops available to get to and assist side lane. So I think at this point, open map state, TT should be looking for these points.
Oh, instant engage onto Gori here. The rocket comes on through. Gori's gone again. Gori cannot last more than a couple of minutes at a time, and LWX gets flashed on by Nu and taken down by Puff. TT are making this look easy. A knockup comes on through, and there's no way out as Ucal grabs himself a triple kill. TT are 10-1 right now. I can't believe it.
I can believe it, Munchables, because I have remained faithful this entire season. Through 9 series losses, I never stopped believing in the ThunderTalk victory. You may have heard me at the start of the game say, they're looking, maybe they can take the game. No, we're going all the way. 2-0, baby. Clid trying to stop and grab a little bit of the scrap on the Rift Herald. But definitely great energy coming out of TT. I wonder if they spent this week of scrims, had the good takeaway, realized Tahm Kench is the pick, and are just going full force onto some of these really heavy flickers and melee shots.
Yeah, and also just the mid dip this game, right? Like, Ucal is having such a good game, and at the same time, Gori just being kind of exposed, honestly, by the mid jungle of TT. xiaolaohu trying to get involved, trying to do what he can, but there's just nothing. The fight was already over at this point. Ucal able to grab that triple kill. So Ucal, it's good to see him having such a good game, right? Because he's not had the greatest entrance into the LPL. Obviously, he's on TT, so a lot of the games are going to look rough when you're losing. But his Corki especially, a few very interesting packages that we got to see. A few Valkyries into the enemy team, then flashing out the other direction. So it's good to see him spreading his wings a little bit with this Sylas.
And same goes for Chieftain as well, right? Frankly, when these two debuted on the roster, the first time we saw them play after the holiday break, I was less than enthused. You know, you had moments of Chieftain flash with the ball bear, but just to get ganks that weren't real, and then you had him getting outperformed by the likes of Weiwei, right? So things like that definitely coming through, whereas I think now we have seen a little bit more of what these two are going to be good at, right? They're going to be good at these kinds of wombo combo, all in synergistic champions that need to make something happen in the early game together. Really liking this version of ThunderTalk that we're seeing.
Yeah, and it feels good to see that as well, because we talked about these guys coming in and potentially having more synergy, right? Because it is this kind of Korean combo, very similarly to how we talked about Clid and Gori when that was finally going to happen. It feels like that's starting to actually happen now for the side of TT. Chieftain and Ucal both having a fantastic game for themselves, and it feels like they're on the same page, right? A lot of this is being done together as a pair. Clid and Gori not really able to have that same effect, and when we looked at the clips from the junglers earlier, it was actually Beichuan and Gori that seemed to have that better synergy.
And also crucially, when we look at this, they've kind of avoided these front-to-back diving into the Graves, Aphelios Vex combo, and they've instead just been really, really reliable about dragging FPX across the map, kind of similar to JDG did in the recent series, or excuse me, Rare Adam. Wow. Whoa.
Hang on, we got a 2v1. I don't actually know if FPX win this one. That is a Sylas we're talking about.
Oh.
Gori don't do damage yet. Ucal takes them on 2v1. xiaolaohu will punish it in the end. But that ain't pretty for FPX. Now the rest of the team moving on in. At least they got a bounty off the back of it. But can they get a fight? Puff with a great gale force to dodge away from the horsey. Now Lwx is in a little bit of trouble. Blast code will be denied by the knock-up. The rockets are in and SouthWind takes him down. And now New trying to find a stun, but the escape from FPX. TT find yet another positive. And with Drake up in 5 seconds, might be able to move on over.
See, the skeptical analyst in the Munchables would say, why did they run all the way from the bot side of the map to follow up that fight? But, you know, they got kills, so clearly they were rewarded for it. This will be uncontested dragon. Definitely also no towers available to be taken, like the T2 is gone, so they wouldn't necessarily be able to get a lot from committing to the bot side. And the fact that Ucal was able to just buy so much time on that Sylas pick makes it easy for them to follow up on that fight, grab an extra couple of kills, and then secure the dragon.
Yeah, the only issue for Ucal here is that Gori literally is only worth the same gold as a cannon minion at this point in the game. So not that great of a trade for him in terms of the 1-for-1. But kind of impressive damage coming out from him at very least.
Yeah, I mean, basically you saw him be able to buy so much time landing the W, getting the extra health coming out of this. Just at this time, the gold differential really showing from what they have. And I don't know why they're really committed. They really want to kill this Sylas here. I think at this point they've almost decided the objective of the game is no longer to secure these neutrals. It's no longer to siege these towers. It's about vengeance. Clint is going crazy on this one, trying to go for the engage. I'm not sure that's a fight that you want to take, as in goes the Diana on the backline, and Ucal follows it up. Chieftain and Ucal are taking over this game, as xiaolaohu gets dived as well. Clid re-enters the fray. Health bars are low. Lwx though walks away with his life barely. And TT, it was a dicey one at best, but they get yet another fight. It's 15-3 on the scoreboard as the reset comes through. Almost a 10,000 gold lead at this point. It's looking real good for TT, and maybe Thunder Talk fans will be rewarded after all. And no one's been bot for at least 5 minutes. No one even has so much as addressed the top waves. Basically, there were like 3 creeps available for that T2 dive. It's all about the kills in this game, Munchables. That's what we're here for. See, no creep wave. Just run it on through. Here we go. We gotta go all the way here.
I respect it. I respect. You know, when you've got a Diana and a Sylas, and you are willing to just go for plays like this, I'm in. I'm on board with this strategy. Puff, a little greedy on this one, and took go down taking the tower because SouthWind had to use his stopwatch. But ultimately, still a positive play for TT here. Now with Baron on the map, they could look for more. Shadow Surge in! Ucal is feeling himself right now. Goes in 1v3 and jump back out on the plate again. Shadow Surge comes through to answer. SouthWind has sacrificed himself to make this play happen. Ucal now uses the Zhonyas. We're gonna look towards Puff as the carry for this one. As Gori will go down. There's one reset. New in the backline. Buying space for Puff, who's getting these autos off. Onto xiaolaohu, trying to finish these kills off. And a great ulti from Chieftain to set up for the double. Hung just has to run for the hills as the Aphelios is caught and the triple comes through.
And right now, TT definitely feeling like any fight is a good fight, but you see a few hints of what this FPX comp would be capable of doing if the game were a bit more even, right? They run in, they get hit by the Moonlight Vigil, there's a lot of AoE damage coming out for the hard commit, and TT HP bars get pretty low. It's just that, I mean, at this point, there's really no punish available, but you can kind of see a little bit of what may have been and how FPX's draft could be considered favorable into better decks.
Yeah, I think any draft is going to fall apart, it seems, when your mid lane is 0 and 7, right? It's one of those situations. I just love that he goes in here. I love that Ucal is like, you know what? I can take this 1v3. This is my fight to take.
Yep, he almost goes down for it, but I think even if he does, he's willing to do it, considering the cooldowns that he's able to buy there, the fact that the rest of his team comes, and they're so far ahead look at how much damage Nu is doing as this Propagator runs in. They basically could have taken this fight 4v5 even without Ucal burning those cooldowns, which is crazy, because I'm pretty sure he's the most fed member on the team.
No. Lwx attempting to make the big play at the end there. Honestly, I respect it, because you're in such a dire position at this stage. Like, you had so many chakrams, you might as well try and make the play. You might as well look for that triple kill, because if you find it, that's 1 billion gold in bounties. Maybe the Aphelios is the way back into the game, but 35 seconds until this Drake comes up. Is this even fightable for FPX? Because it feels like they need to stop the soul going down. I'm not sure it's physically possible.
I'd say that Infernal Soul in its current form, typically one of those dragons that you can give away. It's a lot weaker than it was last year. I think most would associate that with one of the unforgivable souls. But so in this particular case, I think as FPX you kind of maybe have to pray that you can give it up and make something happen. But
we've got a 1v1 going off on the top side of the map. xiaolaohu trying to outplay this one, and he might be able to do so. Bit of sustain for him, dodges the knockup. Ucal can't close the gap. It's a close one, and Hullbreaker paying dividends in that one.
And one nice, like, kind of shining light in terms of how FPX are thinking about this game is we do, like I said, the Hullbreaker being strong right to the AP champions, and then he has purchased an Executioner's Calling, so he's optimizing here to 1v1 Sylas instead of the other way around. So I think that's a pretty smart choice from them. Again, like, this is not this game isn't completely irredeemable for FPX. Just TT finding the snowball conditions, the telecom war going decisively to the KT side. Oh, here we go.
Certainly is. As Chieftain goes in, finds another Moonfall here, just onto the one target, but look at that damage out from Puff. See ya later. Hung falls, and that's going to be at least one inhibitor. Again, though, the side wave's not really being managed too well. Does mean that there's really nowhere else for TT to go on the map. They're just going to have to keep pushing here. Got 20 seconds on the Baron. Is that enough time to finish the game? Gori gets a Shadow Surge on SouthWind. Clint comes in from the side, but Puff is on Jinx, and we're into the late game here. Puff should be able to do damage as Ucal just goes in 1v4 and actually somehow gets a kill. TT continued to rampage here, but while they were fighting, they ran out of minions. That's what FPX were trying to do, was deny the minions. And now they go in once again. Puff takes one tower down, but that's their last minion. Another wave now arriving. Hung looking for the engage. Chieftain is here as well, but no Moonfall available. Puff just firing these autos out, but the wave is cleared, and FPX hold on.
Yeah, I think Thunder Talk, you could see it a little bit. They were still thinking of trying to continue that push. We got the win. Obviously, Chieftain and SouthWind pretty low HP here, so not the most advisable decision, but you could tell, you know, they were calculating it for a second there.
If only they'd set up another wave. Then the game there. But
Yeah,
anyway,
you know,
Chieftain, good attempt there on Lwx, but great kill.
I don't know what a slow push is, Munchables. I've never heard of one before. I've only heard of conquering the opponent team in this particular case with Conqueror stacks. Indeed. Yep,
Indeed. I mean, the thing about slow pushes is they're not very quick, so inevitably you can see why that would be an issue here.
Yeah, it's like, what is the challenge of a dive when you have a gigantic reaper?
Exactly. Oh, Lwx is pulled in. His Gale Force was on cooldown, and in jumps everyone to the meat grinder. Ucal just chases Gori out of the fray and finishes him off, while the rest of the team sweep the board clean. xiaolaohu trying to find a kill, but the Devourer will save Puff, and they spits him straight back on top of the Graves. I'm not sure that was necessarily the right place to be, Puff, but either way, it doesn't matter. The rest of the squad was there. That's going to be game, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but TT have just demolished FPX. It's 28 minutes, 26 kills on the board for TT, and maybe this roster is finally starting to work. Chieftain and Ucal taking over the game.
See, and all Thunder Talk really needed this season, Munchables, was for me to cast one of their games, okay? Because the energy that they seem to be absorbing from this situation is empowering them.